Awesome, thank you. Yeah, just a very quick introduction. My name is Bart. I'm the creative video and audio lead at Out of Dawn. And we make a lot of trailers for our Grimguard Tactics game on a pretty regular basis. And I'm here to kind of discuss and share, I guess, the whys we do that, where we put it, and how we do it, some techniques. And I thought I'd just kick things off with a trailer.
Theranos bore witness to a terrible truth. When deity succumbs to delirium, mortality gives way to monstrosity. Still, there are those who retain their humanity. They go where others fear to tread. Do what must be done. Whatever it takes to bring Theranos back from the brink of its own destruction.
There you go. And hopefully from that you can get an idea of what the game is about. It's quite grim and dark. There's obviously, we are a dark fantasy RPG, so the setting's very, very grim. There's deep lore. It's a strategic game, tactical turn-based. So you can see the board there. You control your little characters. And obviously there's a lot of conflict, which the narrative talks about. And there are heroes, which you discover, collect, set out on adventures, and defeat evil, which in our world is called the Primorva. So when I say keeping tempo, essentially what I'm saying is that we need a pretty steady schedule of videos coming out. And I'll talk about the why, but just before we go there, I have an audio background, and one thing I love doing, I can't do it every time, but I love having the music drive the trailer I'm working on. And if we have time at the end, I'll show you a couple of examples of how that works. But first, imagine you are making a trailer for your video game. You make a trailer, whatever it is, where's the first place you put it? Anyone? Anybody? YouTube, thank you, of course. The most common aspect ratio, 16:9 landscape. And a little while back, that would have been enough. But things have changed. Social media platforms now encourage you to get onto their platforms and, create communities. And in those communities, they say, listen, you can now upload some videos. Forget about YouTube. Upload them to us, and we'll put them in the feed. People love scrolling. Don't use landscape because it just looks like a little thumbnail. So, okay, I'll make a square version. Then I do things like optimizing. We can give you some more height. Maybe you could render out a 4:5. It's a little bit better than a square. Cool. But my game is landscape, right? Yeah, but still, for social media, it's good. And also, give us a portrait, because when I click on it, maybe we want to maximize it, and they want to see it in their hand, take up the whole screen. Right, so I'll make a portrait version as well. And you have to keep up to date with what the social media platforms are doing, because they're constantly adding new things. Like Instagram recently said, you know what, we're going to do vertical version too, even better than 4:5. So now we should do 3:4, apparently. Where else would you put your video? Well, we're a mobile game, so we're on the app stores and Google Play Store. So Google's pretty chill. They're like, you've got it on YouTube, we're on YouTube. Yeah, we'll just link it from there. Apple's like, yeah, nice, you've got an awesome landscape video, yeah? And not only that, we'll give you a total of 3 variations you can use on your storefront. Okay, and you said I could use the landscape? Yes, you can. It's a little bit for the older devices, 5.5-inch iPhones, but still, it's all right. All right, so I've got a square and I've got a vertical. Whoa, hold up. We've got iPhone. So I need you to render a 19.5:9 video so we can put on for the 6.5-inch iPhones, and that's the most popular one. So if you don't have that, what's the point? Cool. All right. And the third one could be square. No, we don't do square, we do iPad. So I need you to do a 4.3. Is that cool? Sure, I'll do that. We're talking about one video here, right? Yep. Also, make sure it's no longer than 30 seconds. And yeah, just do an alternate render because we don't want the Google Play Store appearing at the end of the video on the App Store. Right, okay, that makes sense, yeah. I do all that, and they're really happy. They say, Bart, the 3 variations are amazing. However, we've noticed you only uploaded it to the English storefront. Oh, okay. What do you suggest? Well, if you want to maximize your reach, maybe you want to choose a few countries, popular countries, and see how things go. You know, localize your text, just re-render it again. Cool, I'll do that for the popular one. It's better you do it for all of them. I mean, while you're at it. You've localized the text already. So as you can see, this rabbit hole is quite deep. And we haven't talked about the content of the video yet. But it's something we did for our release trailer last year. Again, we just localized our text we had for the trailer, and all the end screens, made sure they matched up. And I believe it helped with the reach. It's not low effort, but I think it was worth it. Right, so let's take things back a little. Let's just talk about the video itself, the content. Let's think about, imagine you're making just a landscape video, right? 16:9, easy. I mean, do we need a schedule for just making a video? Well, if you do if you're running a live service, which we are. Grimguard Tactics is a live service game. What that means, it's always evolving. We have constant flow of new features, new characters, more stories. And with that, it feels like if we had lack of regular updates, lack of presence on social media, lack of videos, we wouldn't be doing our dev team justice. And that's not good. So when we decide what one video we're going to make, even though it needs like 15 renders, what's the message? I have little briefs I make for every video, and at the top is what's the message? And the message could be that you've got a new feature in your game. We shipped without guilds. And then, after the fact, the community really wanted guilds. So they made the call, and Out of Dawn answered, and we got guilds in. And it was great. You can start to see the assets that I'm kind of using. We'll talk about them in the last half, in the second half. But yeah, keep an eye on those. So yeah, if you've got a new feature, of course you want to show it off. You want to tell everybody. You want your existing players to know, and you want potentially new players to realize that, hey, that Grimguard game that you were thinking about now has guilds. The message could be that there's an event happening. This makes the world obviously feel very, very much alive. Seasonal content. Maybe it's Christmas, maybe it's Halloween, maybe it's Valentine's. And not only that, we had what was this? The Waygate. It was a new game mode. We weren't sure how it was going to do. We didn't want to add it as a feature and just leave it in there. So we thought we'd test it as an event. And I mean, it did really well. We got a lot of great feedback for it. And hopefully it will make its way, maybe in the future, back to the game itself as a feature, or maybe as another event. This is the big one. When we have new hero classes come out, it's lots of excitement. We have external teams working on animations that send them through when they're ready, and then internally we cut it all together. Animation, the reveal 3D animations, the gameplay itself, support text, going through its subclasses, everything, just action shots to excite everybody. On the flip side, the other type of video you could make is a more dev-like one, where you create like a spotlight, something we do, where rather than being a fast action pace, call to action, it's more like, okay, let's breathe, let's go through every single ability, skill, talent of what this class can do. And, so it's easy to follow, and maybe you'll say like, oh, that could work in my lineup. I want to get this hero. We have factions. Factions are essentially a collection of base heroes at a higher tier. So, for example, a base barbarian versus a faction barbarian would have better stats, would have a faction, a special ability of some kind. So, you obviously want to get them if you can, and they usually synergize quite well. And maybe then you just have a huge update that has a bit of everything. A new hero that happens to come out on Valentine's Day, so there's a Valentine's event. Old feature comes back, the Star Oracle Caravan event, whatever happens. Essentially, if the dev team is creating all this content for players to enjoy. I mean, I feel I really need to push that out there. And with the help of Alex, community manager, he helps us do that. And this is a big part of it, making sure the videos are ready. And of course, don't forget, like the first video you saw of the audio, I call these the call to action videos, where essentially it's nothing about, not a specific feature, it's just a general lore feeling of what the game is, a few action shots, showing off some of the heroes and whatnot. Just something more general, maybe more ad-like, but again, to build excitement. And yeah, the thing is with our current, where we aim to do one video every 1 to 2 weeks-ish, and that includes everything final. You know, or the final cut with the final audio with all the final renders. So to be able to do all that, I obviously need access to a lot of visual assets from the game. Luckily, I hope you agree, we have very beautiful assets. And the cool thing is that I'm able to capture a lot of it myself, and some of it I can get straight from the art team, which is upstairs. Now, we work in Unity, and Unity, if you work in Unity on a game, and you haven't used the Unity recorder package yet, I highly suggest you do so. It is really, really, it was a game changer for us. So rather than trying to capture the screen with some third-party app, you can use this, change your settings, select which camera you want to look through, the encoder, everything, FPS. And the biggest thing is, it doesn't just capture what's on your screen, it actually renders it onto disk directly through the engine, meaning I can have a small window of the action, but it's actually rendering 2, 4, or even 8K for me. And for video editing, that's amazing. So again, if you haven't yet and you are using Unity, I highly suggest you do this. So that's just to capture normal gameplay. Just turn off the UI and hit go. But of course, we can modify the gameplay a little bit through Unity. The most obvious thing is playing with the camera. Change the angle, move the camera around. And not only that, but play with the FOV, a little bit to create certain moods. And again, this was for the Waygate event that happened, very dark, kind of twisted backwards world you enter. So it fit really well. And one of my favorites is timescale. This was mentioned in the morning by one of the morning talks. Timescale is a huge thing, in my opinion. In our game, in a corner, you've got a little button that you can hit to do ×2. And all that does is just double the speed of the game so you can get through the battle quicker. But of course, I've got access to the source files. So I maybe change that ×2 to ×10 or ×20. And it's really funny. But I'm not going to show you that here. But what is really cool is when I slow it down to like 10%. And you get this. And I find that actually it's looking really kind of elegant, smooth. It's not perfect. When it's slowed down, you can see, maybe little flaws. But all in all, it looks nice. It's very, very smooth. But I'm not going to chuck a 10-second clip of someone attacking something really slowly into the game. But obviously, with the magic of video editing, you can kind of splice it together, and at the moment of impact, switch to the next, the slower one. And the cool thing is, the original, the camera movement automatically after the impact starts to move to the next character in your lineup. And what I found is if I fight that, and in my video editor, because they're trying to zoom into the new character, so I say, no, I'm going to zoom out. And it's trying to move the camera to the new character, but I'm like, no, let's bring it back to the action. And you get this cool kind of almost, like it's not quite Matrix, but it's almost trying to turn into the character. And again, this was just by playing around with, throwing it in the editor, see what you can do. And this allows us to make, we don't overuse this obviously, but some cool effects to slow down, get the impact shots. When trying to match beats, musical beats, it works really well, gets that moment of satisfaction of something hitting the, its target. Another thing is green screening, an obvious one. Now ignore the bottom two for a second. Number one shows you what our in-game literally looks like. It's just that. I mean, it looks amazing, but it's obviously, it's got a lot of numbers there. It's part of the game. Simply by removing the UI, we suddenly have a shot that actually looks pretty cool. And if you notice in one of the previous examples, we use this, this method in a lot of our earlier videos. You just choose which characters you want to line up. You don't need 5, you can just have 1, you can have 3, whatever you like. But because we're constantly making new videos, it's nice to think of new ways, new clever ways to represent the same idea. So one thing you can do in Unity is, well, if I can switch off the UI, surely I can switch off the background. And in Unity, you just click on whatever camera is active, and one of the properties is, hey, what's the default background color you want? I select green and hit record. And that way, you can put this into your video editor and composite, interesting, change the backgrounds, add VFX, slow things down if you want. Yeah, again, a way to make it more interesting. It's not high effort, to be honest. Select your characters, hit record, throw it in, and just, you've got vignettes at the bottom to cover up the footing because the focus should be at the top. Works really well. All right, moving on to still images. So again, our art is amazing. Our art team is amazing. They do such a good job. Every few updates, we get a new splash screen, something we see when first loading up the game. I look at that and I think, that looks really cool. That's our Midnight Court faction, by the way. It is such a cool graphic, but when I'm loading the game, it's just sitting there on my phone, static. I'm thinking, oh, I want to do something more with this. So I ask nicely if I can have access to the Photoshop files, and assuming they say yes and send it to me, I can go in and start playing around in the video editor. And I could make scenes within scenes. I could dress it up a little bit, adding background embers and whatnot, the fog, making the candles animate, little things like that. You're not trying to overdo it, just add subtleties that really kind of polish, go from great to like amazing. And yeah, a lot of the UI, again, because I can ask Art to send me all their HD versions of all the UI. So if we do want to blow something up and get it close to the screen, it's not an issue, because if I recorded straight from the game, you'd probably see that it's a little bit low res. Just as an example, every hero class has 3 trees you can specialize in. So initially, when we were trying to convey this in video, we would just, without the character, we would literally just have footage of me selecting, oh, I'm going down this path, and then switching to gameplay. We had access to, HD versions of the characters. Well, why not link it? So you can see, these subclass trees are linked to this character themselves, and that was cool. But again, always trying to get better, always trying to evolve. We thought, what if we green screened each individual skill tree when you're selecting it, and then try to mock it up so it's directly linked to the gameplay itself? So there's less friction. There's no screen cutting between this and that, and it's very clear, that this subclass will do this. And just that very quick inspect kind of screen where you see that Enchantress with the UI. It's about being able to green screen, get the HD assets, and recreate it in the video editor, which honestly doesn't take long. All right. And I've got 2 more clips. This is the part about being audio-driven. So most of the time, we'll get through a lot of the footage, put something together, and eventually start trying to block it out to, tweak things, stretch some, shrink some, get it to work for the track. What I really like doing, obviously I like audio background. I love hitting beats, obviously. I like music having more influence on how things work visually, and sometimes to the point where they outright dictate what happens from the get-go. The first example is we had a new faction, and on the left side is that very same day we had the brief. I had the brief ready. I very quickly collected all the material we had ready for this video, for this feature, and just put something together. And on the right side is what the final looked like. So we had some things ready already, but just to let you know, this first mock-up, taking into account that yes, some things were already final. Not everything is final, but some things were. I was able to sort of chuck it in. I mean, it plays it all in one go, but just maybe have a look and see if you can note how the audio, the music kind of works with the. I think that gift code's expired, by the way, sorry. So yeah, again, the left side was done, I would say like within 1 or 2 hours max. I knew what we wanted straight away. I had that music track in mind, and it just fit. And the rest was basically waiting for the final assets to get into the game so I can capture, doing all the parallaxing, polishing everything up. And then sometimes, very rarely, but I'm giving the liberty, I've been given the liberty to, try new things. This is very, very stylized, but I think I put this together literally in 30 minutes, this left side. I knew exactly what I wanted, and then we just worked on finalizing it for the rest of the few days, essentially. And you'll see it's very, very music-driven. I don't think that gift code works anymore, so sorry. And I took faster than I thought. I'm actually done, so thank you. And if there are any questions, please let me know.
Awesome. Hey, thank you, Bart. That was really interesting talk, really informative and neat to see a bit of your background process, and especially for me as like a sound designer, musician, audio person, seeing your audio-driven kind of style of doing trailer making. And I guess from that perspective, I was interested to know a little bit more about how much of your process has been pre-planned in the technical skill sets, such as like all the video creation. You talked about how you would kind of just be getting assets, playing around with them. How much of that have you kind of been learning on the fly versus like what you need and you like go and put the assets together in a specific way?
Yeah. Good question. Because like the video side of things, the video editing side of things, I've been putting editing videos, I should say, for a while now. But like I said before, especially when you ramp up, you get to I guess a zone where you just need to, and just by doing it, you ultimately just learn new things. And the thing is, you do need to dive in there and experiment, because I mean these are some of the things that I believe worked. There's probably many more things that didn't, that look too awkward, that look weird. even down to like music tracks, temp tracks that were just like, this is a little bit cheesy, this is a little bit of IP, it's not dark and hard and gritty enough. Yeah, and I guess with that, being heavily involved from the project, from the get-go, and seeing it throughout development and being actively part of the development, you can see literally what's going into the game every single day, and being able to open that up and just have a play. You know, keeping track of what the engine, like Unity, patch notes. If we're updating into a new Unity package, what's new? Is there anything there I could use or not? But it comes down to, and again, I think I work well with constraints. I certainly call this outside. You know, a piece of art, I would say, is never finished, only abandoned. That's the saying. So without that deadline, you know, you can just work on it for the rest of your life, and with diminishing returns, I believe. So yeah, like if I were to go back and do it again, I could literally go back to the trailers I did last year and just kind of remaster them with a new vision, right? Because that's the idea. For me, it's, yeah, I'm always picking things up. I'm trying things. I'm throwing away the things that don't work and just focusing on the ones that do. Yeah, but it is, again, if I were not doing this every single day, every week, then it would obviously be much slower. But that's what, yeah, like you said, that's what skill sets are. You've got to learn them. And that's why our original videos, you know, were limited in many ways. But the more you do, the more you think about, well, how can I make this a little more interesting? What's the pros and cons against using lens flare in my, you know, it looks a little bit too cheesy, or it looks too generic, or do I really need it? Like, really work on it. And camera movement. Very early on in development, our game had no screen shake. So I would like, well, I'm making a video. Of course I'm going to make the screen shake every time I hit, you know, something hits. Because it just, I want that feeling to come through, not just through audio, but visually. And when you match them together, it's like, nice, perfect. Luckily, we have screen shake now for our crits. But yeah, and then there's nothing wrong with, you know, adding your own thing. You know, it's about modifying the gameplay. Again, the gameplay footage you can get from Unity very easily, but it's what you do with it. It's yeah, how you play with it and how you sculpt it. And again, I think I said this last year for audio, but if you had, you know, 5 different video editors working on this with the same brief and the same assets, you're going to have like something completely different, 5 different videos, all depending on, you know, the path we've taken. And, you know, I try and stick to my initial strengths in audio, or at the same time seeing what I can get away with. I sometimes say, you know, I enjoy working on music videos for Grimguard because they're literally like just, yeah, check this out. Like, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's pretty effective as well. So yeah, thanks for that.
Oh, thank you.
Do you also make shorts version of the same trailer, and how would you approach it differently?
No, good question. More renders, right? Yeah, we at the moment, I'm more involved with the larger videos, but it's always a talking point. We have made shorter videos specifically, you know, because we wanted to try, you know, like YouTube has its main page, then it's got its shorts. And if you follow, you know, what does the algorithm need, what the algorithm want. If you have access, by the way, if you have YouTube, you can go into analytics and have a look on, you know, we discussed with Eric, our senior game designer, that this is, what's it say? They literally tell you at which point, you know, you have drop-off audience to the second, and it becomes a graph. And you could very quickly see, like, okay, we're looking back. And I mean, that's something I didn't mention. We definitely look back and see, you know, where the drop-offs are and see, oh, well, this one makes sense because it was a scene cut. But some of them are more generic, like, okay, obviously this was someone scrolling through because it's consistent with everything else. We have a community manager, Alex, and he helps creating short clips for us as well. A lot of them are based on the videos, we produce in-house as well. So yeah, there is that. But yeah, like I said in the first part, where it all depends on, where it's aimed, because it's constantly updating. I remember being asked for squares, then for 4/5s. Recently learned they've got 3/4s. Told that we need portraits, and initially I used to try and make portraits that fill the screen, right? Like literally zoom into the the gameplay, but it oddly looks a little bit weird. And not only that, if you go into TikToks, you've got safe zones, right, where there's going to be native UI from the social media platform of where you click like, heart, and all that. So while we do need a full screen option, we don't want to take up the full screen for the key parts, literally. Otherwise, they'll be covered up by likes and subscription buttons and whatnot. But yeah, like at the moment, again, because we're creating so many videos, when we usually make a proper square version, which means it's zoomed in and tracked. So no letterboxing. But when it comes to portrait, it's the return on effort and the problems that introduces if I were to zoom in completely. We just stick to square with letterboxing, which kind of works out because we get to put our title on the top. And, because when you're scrolling, if you're choosing the 9:16 portrait as you're scrolling, it's cutting off something a little bit until you tap it. And when you tap it, it extends. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm not sure if I answered your question, but we definitely do shorts, through different methods. Yeah, okay. But it's always evolving. Like I try to keep up with, what's the latest thing to do is just regarding technical aspects, let alone the creative side.
Yeah, thanks.
Just one last quick question.
Kia ora. You said you were making videos every 2 weeks or so, which is a pretty impressive cadence. I feel like when you're doing that sort of thing, it can get easy to fall into kind of habits and templates and stuff like that. So I'm interested to hear what you do to try and keep things fresh and make sure you're always doing different things for each video.
Yeah, very good. The only template we have at the moment, and sorry, it's not a winner. We have an end screen we usually go to where you saw the badges and the download button or play now button. But as you saw, we have alternates, and I'm always wanting to, again, expand on that. That in itself, I can give you a 15, 30-minute talk about, where you see more footage at the end with maybe a promo code and something else. So we try and would be beneficial to, or be nice to have variations. But in regards to, yes, I definitely push for not having, and that's why I talk about, stylizing some things, constantly changing things up, because if we didn't, then yes, every trailer would look exactly the same like the original one we released on release, for example, and new features. We don't have a template. For a quick answer, basically, again, we have a little brief, highlight the key message we want to try and send across, and it's usually 3 points, the rule of threes. It's like new feature, big rewards, 7-day calendar, something like that, whatever it is, right? And we try and focus on that and present that in a way. I don't think we have when you say template, there's never a moment I do not have a template saved which I open up and drag things in. It's a new file every time. Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Bart Klepka.